Hello and welcome aboard WhalePod to another Genshin Impact video. This is going to be another quick one here, and while I did promise the Ayato review would be coming out today, instead, Ayato's review is going to be pushed till tomorrow, and since you will be seeing this on the day that the new banners for Ayato and Raiden Shogun are dropping, I'm going to be briefly going over the actual banners for Ayato and Raiden Shogun, and my opinions on the 4 stars on them, and my opinion on the weapon banner. So, we have Event Wish, Reign of Serenity, and Event Wish Azure Excursion, which both have the same 4 stars, just different 5 stars, those being Ayato and Raiden Shogun. As far as the 4 stars go, Kujo Sara has come to be synonymous with Raiden Shogun banners, as all 3 banners that she has been promoted on have been Raiden Shogun banners. Which does make sense, as Kujo Sara is a dedicated Electro support, and by that I mean a dedicated support for Electro DPS characters, not a dedicated support who happens to be Electro. As Raiden Shogun is the pinnacle of Electro DPSs, and Kujo Sara is also a general in the Raiden Shogun's army, it makes sense that Kujo Sara only comes to town when her boss is along for the ride. Kujo Sara is a decent unit if you're going for Raiden Shogun, but if you're going for Ayato, she loses a significant portion of her value. But all in all, I would say Kujo Sara being promoted here is a solid B. Rosaria is always a fun character to have in your roster. She can boost crit rate of the whole party by quite a bit if you just put the investment in to get Rosaria to 100% crit rate, which, seeing as there are a smattering of crit rate polearms to choose from, is actually easier than you might think, and definitely easier than it is for a class like a Claymore. All in all, I give Rosaria just a general utility for just a general utility, the same grade as Kujo Sara, about a B. However, I am going to have to give these banners 4-star offerings a C overall, because the 2 Bs here, well, C- overall, because the 2 Bs here are being dragged down by the quadruple F- known as Sayu. What a waste of a character design. She has a interesting, unique, and a little bit adorable design, wasted on the fact that she's literally just an effing taxi. Now, moving from there onto the weapon banner, we see the Haran Geppaku Futsu and the Engulfing Lightning, 2 very specific weapons for their very specific characters. Haran Geppaku Futsu isn't even really Ayato's best in slot. It's debatable whether Futsu or just Jade Cutter is better for Ayato. Jade Cutter has lower base attack but has higher crit rate, and has some HP scaling that will also boost Ayato's areas that do have a little bit of HP scaling. Engulfing Lightning, however, is an absolutely cracked weapon for the Raiden Shogun, and because Xiangling is the Polearm Archon, is a viable option on her as well. I suppose if you're not going for a full crit Rosaria does like energy recharge to keep her burst up as often as possible, but I still say on Rosaria you should focus on something that gives actual crit rate, like a winged spear, or, I don't know, something else. I know the Battle Pass one gives like a ton of crit rate, like it's a 4-star equivalent of something like the Jade Cutter, like it gives more than any other 4-star does, but has a lower, but has like the lowest possible base attack for a 4-star. All in all, I'd say Ayato's weapon is kind of an odd duck in that, other than Ayato, it might be useful for Kaching because it does have a passive that revolves around your normal attacks needing to do elemental damage, which I do believe Ayato, even though it scales off of the numbers on his skill and you don't need to level his normal attacks up, I do believe his E/slashes are going to be considered normal attack damage. And, so yeah. Geppaku Futsu, kind of an odd weapon, doesn't really know where it has a place, because even on its signature unit, there are still some arguably better options. And even on Kaching, it's going to be mid at best. I'd say even Jade Cutter over Futsu on Kaching, and definitely Miss Splitter over Futsu if you have both as options for her. Now moving on to the 4 stars, the Moon's Moon and Akumaru are interesting weapons. The Moon's Moon doesn't really have a wielder yet. As, well, the all 3 of the Inazuman 4-star weapons here, like the Moon's Moon, the Akumaru, and the Wavebreaker's Fin, which is on the weapon banner that's still going to be available here for about the next 24 hours in my time zone at time of recording. On the Wanderer and Ito's weapon banner is, well, they all have a passive ability that boosts elemental burst damage based on the combined energy cap in the party. So I'd say the Moon's Moon might be a decent weapon for just boosting the damage output of maybe a burst support Ganyu, or like trying to maximize the burst damage of Venti's burst. But it doesn't really have too much of a place. It's kind of just the odd man out here. I'd say Akumaru is a very good option for Beto, though, in the Claymore category. Beto has a high energy cost burst, so she's going to be, so she herself is going to be contributing a lot of energy to the Akumaru's damage cap. Sacrificial Fragments is an interesting one. I'd still say it's Sucrose's best in slot, even though a lot of the meta slaves out there would say that Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers is better for Sucrose. Favonius Lance is one that I'm not too big of, but a lot of people are fans of, so Favonius Lance is always a plus. Favonius weapons are always a plus. Sacrificial Fragments, out of all the sacrificial weapons, is probably the second least useful, right ahead of the Sacrificial Greatsword, because, well, unlike the other 3 sacrificial weapons, it's not an energy recharge substat weapon. It's actually an elemental mastery substatted weapon, and it actually has the second most elemental mastery in the game of any weapon substat, right behind Nahita's signature weapon. So that's another plus for the sac fragments there. It's I'd say if you don't have Nahita's signature weapon and you just want to focus on consistent elemental mastery, go for sac frags over the Widsith for Nahita, as even getting that proc and getting the second skill usage might be able to help you overcome the inherent weakness of having to stand still in order to mark enemies, as you can mark part of them, get the proc, and then continue marking. The only weapon on here that I'd say is completely useless is the Lion's Roar. I mean, yeah, it does boost damage against enemies affected by Pyro and Electro. So, like, the one use it does have is as a, like, a free-to-play friendly-er. I'm not going to say free-to-play friendly because it's still a gacha weapon. But since it is a standard banner gacha weapon, a good number of free-to-players will probably still have a Lion's Roar already. So it could still be a more free-to-play friendly Kaching weapon. But overall, I'm going to give this weapon banner... I'm never going to rate a weapon banner higher than the character banners they're paired with, so I'm going to say this is a D+. And say the main reason for rating it this low is weapon banners are still scams. Do not wish on them unless you are stupid. I am stupid, so I wish on weapon banners. Do not be like me, be better than me. And now with that, we have come to the end of this banner review. As always, Raiden Shogun, SS tier unit, one of the best in the game's best battery, can serve as an amazing DPS and hyper carry at Constellation 2 and higher. Ayato is a fun unit, even if he's not the most meta, but once again, hey, if you're watching my videos, you should know I don't care about meta. So I just go for units you think are fun, think have cool playstyles. Ayato definitely checks both those boxes off for me. I don't use him as much as I should these days due to the fact that his timepiece is still absolute booty. The substats are godly, but it has def as its main stat. So yeah. These banners, I say, are if you the Raiden Shogun banner, when you take into account that she is a double S tier unit, combined with the C minus 4 stars, I would say this banner gets a solid B+. Ayato I'm going to give a solid B because he's not as strong of a unit as Raiden Shogun. However, he is a very fun and interesting playstyle. It is very unique how fast he is able to unleash his normal attacks. So, unless there's an internal cooldown on how often it can fire off, he can proc the follow-up attacks from someone like Yelan or Xingqiu faster than pretty much anyone. As always, if you are pulling on these banners for any of these 3 4-stars, do make sure you're pulling on a banner that you would be content getting the limited banner 5-star on. Don't, like, say, go on Ayato's banner because you're trying to get Sara and Rosaria, and you already have all the Raiden Shogun cons you want, if any. Don't just go on it for the 4-stars if you don't want Ayato, for example. So that's my pieces of advice for you. These banners are actually pretty decent. The weapon banner, as always, is still a scam. Don't wish on it. And remember, 4-stars, there is absolutely no guarantee you'll ever get the one you want. So if you're hunting a specific 4-star, like if you're hunting Kujo Saracons on these banners, be prepared for a world of pain. Now, if you liked this video or found it informative, I thank you very much. And please do remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons, if you have not done so already, in order to trigger a reaction known as getting more of my content into your hands. And as always, comments are welcome down below. Please do tell me your opinions on what you think of these banners. And with that said and done, I hope y'all are having fantastic days, WhalePod, and make sure to stay cool, stay classy, and most importantly, stay healthy. But until next time, this is Captain Whale, signing off.